Yes, sir, and welcome back to another Dark and Darker mobile video. It is your boy Flo10Z, and as we have done with all the classes, today I got with you guys the Cleric Advanced Guide. We're gonna go on and dive into Goblin Caves on hard. We're gonna get into some PvP, you know what I'm saying, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the class and how I feel that a new player should best be approaching, or my overall opinion on the difficulty of said class. Starting off, the priest specializes in healing and defense. It's very much a class geared towards support and survivability. You can opt in, put active and passives together to make it more of a battle priest or a healer type of priest type of thing. I prefer the more battle oriented role. It's just fun, to be honest. But a lot of the thing that the cleric struggles with is, I'd say, range, because it's a little bit of a squishier class, but it's tanky. It's kind of tanky. It's kind of, I ain't gonna say that. It's kind of tanky, but it's like that tankiness with that survivability comes at like a cost of range to like defense. When I say squishy, I mean, if you get hit with a headshot, pretty much any class outside of like maybe the barber like is really gonna like tank it for real. That doesn't put them in a deadly situation. Like when you're not like, you know what I'm saying, and then if you're not really kitted up with physical defense and stuff in mind, which really comes at the sacrifice of a lot of the other things. When I feel like, the priest is really more opted to support, I don't really feel like you should be sacrificing that for personal defense unless it's a scenario where, you're playing solo or you're just trying to be like a battle priest. But again, that's just like a novelty type of thing. There are other classes that are far better suited for the role type of thing. So I just don't feel like the way to make it viable in close range combat comes at the expense of the range, because the triangle shield with the mace, while really good, it does come with the range. You get a crazy amount of defense capabilities in addition to the slightly higher defense, the healing, and the buffs that come with the cleric. Having that shield that prevents those like damage, it's like completely nullifies damage. Like even in the case of the barb, one of the hardest hitting, when it hits you with his crush perk that stuns you, you still don't take damage. So what would have been 2 hits technically is 1 hit, you know what I mean, like, or no hits at all if they can't capitalize on the stun, you feel me? Like, so you feel me? And then when it comes to rogues, a cleric is a very good counter, because the holy light that enchants your weapons and gives you range also stops rogues when they're in invisible, or just invisible targets in general are revealed within 3 meters, making the cleric a very strong counter against invisibility. So like I said, really when you think of cleric, you really are just like thinking supports, buffs, you know what I'm saying, sustain, you know what I'm saying, survival ability. Like cleric is much survivability and buffs, like, but they come at the expense that they're not really geared for like long-term one-on-one fights. Like there's no perk to recover willpower for them personally, and you have to opt in for willpower recovery. You can gain a slight amount of willpower recovery through the collections that you use by donating a specific amount. You basically collect all the gear, and then as you submit the gear, then you unlock like extra perks and stuff. Again, I still have to make the class on that. I just been really busy with like real life stuff, as well as trying to get all of this stuff out before the beta ends, and you know what I mean. So like you'd have to sacrifice and build towards willpower recovery, or you'd have to carry like willpower potions, or you have to keep yourself sat down like in the meditation that you see the meditation logo that's to the left by the health bar by the joystick. Like that you have to like sit there and meditate, and that takes a while like to get back to full. So if you find yourself in a fight where you've used up all your willpower, you're technically out of like utility, you know what I mean? So that's one of those things. Like the mage is very much more for a team type of build than it is like a solo thing. You're really gonna struggle in sustained fights like really badly. The one thing I will say is the ability for them to equip a war maul, which could with, like I said, coming prepared with the right amount of protection potions and willpower potions could turn you into an effective battle priest. Like, but again, it would also just still come at the value per slot cost. You would have to spend a lot more on consumables, and you would have a lot more consumables in your your bag, which would again take away. And if you opt into being a healer priest, then you have to be really good at 1v1 combat, and at that point, what I mean, you're basically gonna have to like really lean into the point where the priest, like I said, against certain classes the priest struggles hard. Like when it comes to like mages and stuff, like after their initial birth, like you see that right there, because I have the battle priest set up. You see that two spells, like I think it was like 2 or 3 spells, basically costed me, it just costed me my like half my bar, right? So now I'm to a point where I have to actually fight this guy one-on-one, or if I do choose to, like, it phased through his head. That's crazy. But if I do get to the point where I have to use my other abilities, I'm keeping them in my pocket, because I'm just like, boom, all right, we get the bind off, we get the lucky bind. Oh, he stops me from hitting him. That was crazy. This 1v1's insane. Like, but you see what I'm saying? Oh, it blocked it. And then the wizard showed up. Oh, dude, you see what I'm saying? Like you just like there was no utility. I was hurt, and because I've opted for more of a battle priest role, I really don't have the healing, and now I don't have any willpower potions, and now I have to sit there out meditate before I can even engage in a fight, or I just enter the fight at a massive disadvantage. So when you're playing the cleric, you often want to focus on, again, willpower management, spacing and stuff like that, making sure that your area, but making sure that your like areas are clear, you're not getting hit with the third parties and all of those things like that. Like, because the cleric is very much one of those, like, he either needs you like in a straight one-on-one, or it needs to be over quickly, because once too many enemies start piling on back, the cleric will then find himself really at a hard disadvantage, especially because your damage isn't necessarily the best. It just takes you a lot, right? This guy really just didn't heal after his fight. Like, I really feel like he just didn't heal, and had he healed, we would have been right back at that stalemate. This guy right here, but like, this is what I mean right here. The cleric has really no defense against this. Like if you can't hit them with your spell, like your bind, the mage basically just has you outclassed. There's really nothing you can do. Like it's not like the barbarian yesterday where I had the hatchet. Like, there is just no range. Like, there is no range. Like, you really have to sit there and try to close the distance, and this is where the cleric just like, its contention with longer range classes is just not very good. Like, it can fight the barb up one, it can fight the rogue, and it's a good counter to the fighter due to the shield and it's, the overall buffs. But when it comes to things like the ranger, the mage, it's easy. Like it's really like you just have to tank their hits, and hopefully you're skilled enough in 1v1s that when you finally do close the distance by using your utility, you just have to basically beat them in PvP. Like, do you understand how bad that is? When that's bad. Like, you don't want to end up in a situation where you basically have to use all your utility to close the gap, and that's where the cleric finds itself a lot if you're not careful. You know what I mean? Like, so I really just wanted to be real thorough about this before people just like pick the cleric and then like realize like, yeah, the healing and everything isn't all cut out. It's all cut out to me, because you can't use the God of War and the God of Light at the same time. You have to pick. So if you use the God of Light, then you're pretty much practically, support and healing. But if you pick the God of War, you're more damage oriented based, but you really can't contend with a lot of the other classes are a lot more suited to that role. You get what I mean? It's still like you're still very much dependent on skill, and then when it comes to a team-based thing, you're very still much like you got to be able to buff your teammates and give them the opportunity. The cleric is very much like an opportunity giver for teammates, and a very like strong one-on-one close range fighter, but not one of the best. Like, you feel me? I say for groups, very, very A tier, probably a must for group combat, the healer orange. And I'd say for the battle priest, more God of War type builds, I'd probably run. I mean, I would. I mean, you could for fun. It's fun. It's definitely fun to play and makes those fights a lot more, gives you a lot more flexibility with skill expression. But there are just a lot better choices. You know, fighter, larp, rogue. Like, hell, even the ranger can carry a rapier, and it's like they excel at long range combat, but still can put up crazy numbers of damage. I'd say this is just best suited for like teams. I wouldn't really be running Cleric in the goblin caves. Like, again, you could like you could, but man, if you really run into like a good mage or a good ranger, then you're pretty much like you're on the receiving end of the losing fight. You could still win, but you're pretty much gonna be like, you see how he basically just staled me and kept running away. I don't know what bug this was, but this was crazy. You just basically sheath your weapon if that happens. And then there, you know what I'm saying, right here, caught the guy with the bind. He's weak, pop him in the head. You see that right there? That was 2 headshots. And bro is like, he doesn't seem like he's backing down. Like, but you see that triangle shield? Crazy. The triangle shield is nice. I'm not sure what, we have to go and cover. I'm not sure what that even does. Like, I haven't touched the fighter. But the fighter, me touching the fighter is going to come with the beginner guide, simply because I wanted to make like 2. I never actually made a proper beginner guide, but hopefully you kind of see how you should kind of be playing the priest if you're solo. That gives you an idea, you know, healing. I'm going to have to go into a healer class guide for the cleric, simply because there's like 2 different ways the cleric is like played. But I hope you enjoyed this, and if you enjoy this and want more dark and darker mobile content, like, subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out. Never.